Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
I'm BJ Sewura, an aspiring paranormal musician who plays live for the dead because the living just doesn't want to hear me.
The Dead of Winter Horror Network and Nick King from the 508 Productions invite you to endure the most terrifying immersive experience in all of podcasting. Beneath the Red Umbrella, now available wherever you listen to podcasts. Beneath the Red Umbrella, when the snow falls, the killing season begins.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our dimensional pals out there? In today's episode, we'll be jumping into psychic mediumship, reiki, and dimensional planes with special guest Natasha Randolph. Natasha is a professional psychic medium, certified Usui Reiki master, spiritual mentor, and pagan eclectic witch. Welcome to the show, Natasha.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for bearing with me as I was stumbling through my own intro. So, guys always ask me when we bring a new guest on, how did you meet them? And Natasha's amazing. I put out a call on the Book of Faces. Natasha responded and we connected. And I don't know, I looked at Natasha's website and thought, we vibe. This is a vibe. I like it.
Well, I'm glad you thought so.
It's very professional. I love your logo. I love that the logo is you and it's very purple. It's got crystals. It's just fun. I love the entire tone to it.
Thank you.
So how long have you been a psychic medium?
That's a loaded question because when I officially started this journey into, I can do this. This is what this means. Okay. Like I started that when I was 7 as a little girl. And I wasn't initially like trying to look for it. I didn't even know like really what it was. I just knew that I was having experiences that people just were not openly talking about. So I'm like, I need some answers. So I just went looking for answers and it just felt like a whirlwind, just going down the rabbit hole, just, one thing after another, just the domino effect. And it led me here. So it's just been a long journey since 7, just doing this work.
So why 7? The reason why I asked that is when I've done a lot of research on like reincarnation. And I feel like that's kind of the age when a lot of kids remember the things and they talk about the things, and then after that it kind of falls off. Is there like a correlation there with you, or?
So this is not anything scientific, just of my own understanding. I believe that as we are growing physically into these vessels and developing, that we are also developing our energy centers. And I believe that when we are around that age, around 6, 7, 7, 8, around there, that's when we are developing our third eye and our crown, from what I have noticed from experience. This is just from my own personal findings. And I believe that this is when kids start to become either activated or connected to this. And they have that, it's almost like a mental switch where they can choose to, okay, let me block this out. I'm scared of this. Like, either diving in or, suppressing it. But just from my own understanding, that's what I have found when I'm connecting with either clients and their kids or in my journey. So that's just what I believe to be true from what I've experienced and seen for myself.
Had you experienced any other gifts or anything on that metaphysical level prior to 7?
Not prior till. I just remembered that in childhood, genuinely, it was just very traumatic, honestly. And as I was just trying to navigate through or survive that, I just kind of stumbled upon I can do this. or this is a thing. And it was at first kind of an escape from that, because it's like, okay, well, let me just tune into something that's a little bit, oh, there's like excitement and like, learning with this. And that's just kind of heavy and dead. So at first I was just kind of tuning into that because it was just like, okay, this feels like this is Technicolor while everything else is like so grayscale. So that's how it was for me at first, really.
It's funny you mentioned Technicolor and grayscale because I think you do oral read or aura readings, right? I think I saw that on your website. So you do see the world in color.
Yes, it's very different because where everyone else is just like, oh yeah, I see the street and the people and like the buildings. I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, well, I see that too, but I also see the auras and the spirits and the ley lines and the portals and the vortexes and all these other things. And then also when you touch things or go into certain spaces or rooms, then you can feel the tension in the air that you can cut with a knife, or oh, you touch someone, you can instantly feel like what they're thinking or the pain that's going on in their body. Like it's so much. And for a while, I used to struggle with that intensity, just being so in tune with everything and being so hyper aware. It was definitely a journey for sure to be able to channel that for myself and to do this work for sure.
Being able to see the auras and the ley lines, which is amazing, and like the energy grids, is this stuff that you had to train yourself to see? Or is this something that started to reveal in front of you as you tapped into your gifts?
Yeah, like the best way I could describe it was as I was diving into these intuitive senses, which is truly the foundation of your intuitive abilities, honestly. Like that's how you master them. um, as I got more in, like just familiar with like, okay, I can do this typical ability or this sense, like it's like you would dive deeper into these levels of each of those senses and they would become different abilities that you could do or subcategories within those abilities. Because just like clairvoyance, when people start to open that third eye, they may see like maybe it looks a little blurry. Maybe I only see shapes and colors, or maybe you can see full blown, like, okay, it's in my mind's eye. This specifically, like there's levels to it. Like some people can just see those fuzzy, like a little bit, like hovering over it, like not really a clear picture. And then other people can just see like the full on picture of like, oh, I can see your aura and your chakras and your prime meridian lines and all this stuff. And like they can see that. So it just really depends. But for me, it was more like, okay, I slowly dipped my toes and then I went deeper and deeper until I was just deep diving in and then it became my normal because I was using them as often as my physical senses, really.
I was wondering if growing up, it seems like that's a lot for a kid to take on, but also like your family, right? Like I can imagine what you say these things as a kid, and maybe you're using just more basic language, but they're like, what are you talking about? Or maybe they have to filter you from like with other people. Like, did you have to run into that kind of stuff?
Like, I remember in the beginning, at first I was thinking, okay, maybe I can share this with my family. And then I realized what their positions were within their beliefs. And then I realized, okay, my mom had abilities, but she tuned it out. She chose to suppress it. And she doesn't know it as that, but that's what it was. And then my father was a very religious person. So it just wasn't within his realm to even know all the power is to God. I'm not even going to connect with my own divinity, like that was his outlook. So for me, I learned through trying to communicate with them that they were just not open to that. So then I learned, okay, this is for me. This is my journey. And I just need to figure out what this is. And that's what I had to accept because it just was what it was.
Now, were you able to find a supportive community outside of that as you expanded into your gifts and explored them?
Yeah, it took a while because at first I was like, okay, I can't tell my parents, so maybe I shouldn't tell my sister because while I'm figuring this out, I don't know if this is real or not. I don't want to bring her into my craziness if it really, so that's where my brain was. So I was like, yeah, let me just keep to myself. But then over time, it was almost like a movie, like these little things would happen where it's like, okay, this is not normal. And she'd be like, did you do that? And I'm like, no, like, distraction. And then, but then after a while, it's like, hey, this is just too coinkadink. Like, what's happening? And I'm like, okay, well, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, that is so cool. So then eventually I learned I could go to my sister, which was great because I'm just like, God, it's like, this is just too much to hold all in your head, And then as I got older, like really after high school, when I became like, after 18, that's when I realized there was an actual local community of witches and pagans in my area. And I only thought it was just me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I was really in the dark. And then I realized, okay, I can go to these local drum circles or these moon circles, these events where I can really be in this community and go into these shops. So that was the beginning of that. But besides that, it's more like people thinking it's cool, or then maybe wanting to learn from you or wanting to be your competition and one up you. Like, it's very weird how it kind of goes, but that's just what I've explored in my journey or what I've noticed. Yeah.
Was it hard to find resources as you started to explore these gifts?
Oh, like information, like what it all means and what to do, like
Yeah.
that type of thing? Absolutely. Because back in those times, like in the early 2090s and stuff, at that time, it wasn't necessarily as mainstream as it was now. And at the time, I also was like a child. I didn't have the access to buy books or to find like mentors and stuff. So honestly, a lot of what I learned was from spirit, honestly. And they guided me to understanding, okay, this is what this means. This is what you could do and all this stuff. So I was really just learning through the trial and error of going through it all, which is kind of why I'm just so dedicated, really just teaching people the ins and outs. Cause I'm like, if I could just spare you the nonsense or the shenanigans of like that, you don't got to do it that way or whatever. So that's a big part of what I do now because I didn't have no one but spirit. And before you trust spirit, you're kind of trying to do it your own way. So you be reluctant and stubborn. So it was a journey to even trust that. So that's a big part of what I do because I'm like, I remember that struggle of like, oh my, and what if you reject it and you don't even understand what's happening? So it's so easy to get lost in that. That was crazy.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of people, especially back in like the 90s, 2000s, when there weren't those communities, they would turn to pop culture, right? Like movies, books, things like that to help them get through it. And, maybe that's not the best way to go about it, right? Because I don't know, for me, back in the day when I'm thinking about that stuff, like I think about, Poltergeist, I think about The Craft, I think about all of these different films that kind of touch on these subjects. I mean, obviously, some are not very accurate at all, but that's all we had to go on. It wasn't like a regular thing that you could talk to your friends about. And I feel
Yeah.
like, especially in high school, that's got to be a hard thing to do because it's like, I mean, people are judging you in high school for anything, right? And then for this type of, gifts to be out there, how do you even navigate high school doing with that?
Well, for a while, I like during the high school times, I was still kind of suppressing it to an extent. Like I was still full on having experiences, but I was just trying to more so like turn the dial down, take the edge off, suppress it just enough to where I was like, okay, I still feel like a person, but really I was just in the habit of numbing or detaching, keeping busy, like all of that. So that was my normal back then. So for a while, I would only use my gifts really just to read people so I knew how to navigate around them, whether that was for survival or personal gain, because at the time I was still just in the dark with myself. So that's what it was during high school. I didn't really let people know that I was into that stuff or I could even do this type of stuff. I was just more so just trying to explore, well, what can I choose for myself based on what feels great and what I can do, which led me to some other things, shenanigans, but it was just my journey then. So I was just very much just trying to keep quiet, I guess, or keep up appearances at that time. So it wasn't really a thing for high school, I guess, for people to know.
It's interesting you say that you used it more for like basically survival because, it seems like that seems to be a common theme with guests who have that intuitive development of their gifts, that they've gone through a lot of trauma, not saying you have, but they have gone through a lot of trauma or hardship or difficulties where I almost feel like it forces the gifts out, right? We develop this as an additional way to protect ourselves. And I just sometimes wonder if we all have it in us, but the ones who go through a little bit more of the tough stuff, it's kind of like sink or swim, it's coming out because we got to protect ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I've seen it with some clients that I try to help or navigate through their healing or teaching them with their gifts and stuff. And I just feel like when we are a sensitive soul and we're dropped into these, certain situations or traumatic families and stuff, we, in our nature, we try to heal or nurture or radiate our light. But then in those situations, they can try to program us or condition us to be a role for them to serve or perform for them. And then we turn back at ourselves or go against ourselves for them. And then we end up abandoning ourselves over time. And then we end up only using our gifts at the expense of ourselves for them. That's what I've noticed. I've been helping a lot of sensitives, intuitives, mystics, healers try to navigate because in our survival mode, we had to turn our gifts basically instead of serving us for them. And then we lose ourselves. And then we have to go through the journey of reclaiming our power, calling that back, reconnecting with these parts, reintegrating. So it's just so much. But I definitely agree with that for sure.
So I guess another question I had was when you're after high school and you connect with these people that this community, what was maybe for you one of your first gifts that kind of blossomed that was just like, oh my god, this is kind of exciting, this is also eye-opening, and this is like a new life for you?
Is that when I reconnected with like the local community is what you're saying? Well, during that time, I actually started to realize I was going deeper into my empathic abilities where I was not just sensitive to the people I was around, but also the spaces I was in. And I was going deeper than that I ever had before. So when I was going deeper into like, connecting with like this community and these bigger, like public events in these crowded spaces, I started to realize that residual collective energy I had to start, like, instead of just, okay, I need to block this all out, like, it was almost like I had to learn how to filter it. Like, I had to more so learn how to pick specific energies that I would draw from crowds and then block specific things out. So like, for example, let's say you're at a concert or something or at Walmart and the crowd's, a big mix of shenanigans and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, I want to pick up the hype energy or the excitement, but I don't want to feel drunk or whatever they're on or whatever, that depression. So it's like you have to pick and choose. And then as I was also connecting with like the witchcraft and all this stuff, it made me feel safe to go deeper into my practice. So I started going deeper into like, okay, I'm gonna build my altar here and maybe reconnect with like-minded people so that we can do our own rituals together and celebrate the moon cycles or the Sabbats and all this stuff. So that's what was happening after high school when I was deep diving into my local communities with my gifts and then what I was doing with them and all that.
Now, when did you start working with other people to help them heal and, explore their own gifts?
So it started off with like, I guess in two parts, because before I was doing it professionally, I was still feeling called to do this work, but I was still kind of scared like to actually put myself fully out there. So I was still helping people, and it kind of started off with actually online. I was 13, 14, maybe 12, honestly. Like it was very much pre-teen years. And I would go online to join like either like online chat rooms or groups or something. And I would basically join these groups where like, it was like free readings or reading swaps or here's a picture. What can you read from this? And I would start like that because at first I was very, I guess, shy, but I felt called to do it. So I was like, okay, this feels like a safe way. Like it's distant and I could just practice. And every time I did it, it was just spot on. And then eventually, like at first it was typing to them, like straight up, like just in the DMs or in the comments, just typing. And then it progressed to phone calls. And then I was like, you know what? This is very easy for me because especially when you're not like in the actual situation. You're not clouded by like your emotions and your own personal beliefs and judgments. So when you're connecting with someone else's situation, it just comes and flows immediately because you're just like, you're not personal to it. So after I had, once I started doing professionally, when I started, I really should just pursue this. My daughter was like 2, and my best friend just moved away, and she was like really my rock. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I need to choose something for me, like a little passion project or something, because I'm really kind of sad my best friend has moved away. So then I started doing it as like a side thing where I would just, okay, I'll offer these readings, and people loved them. And I loved doing it. It was so effortless and like it was natural for me. And then I was excited to do them. But then I realized once I was matching my regular paychecks, I was like, you know what? If I just stop doing this basic job and actually pursue this full time, I can make more. Like it's a no brainer. So I took the plunge, I stopped, and I decided to go full time. And then I got my LLC. So like that's the way it progressed. But I was always technically doing this work. It was just more like me feeling, I guess, safe to really come out. That was the real obstacle for me because I loved the work. I just didn't feel like I wanted to be seen or known as that, really.
Yeah, the stigma definitely is really hard for a lot of people to overcome because as much, even now as it's being more accepted, it's still in certain areas it's mocked, it's ridiculed. So it's definitely something that gets people to not admit what they feel, how they're, the things that they're experiencing. Was there anything that you had to do when helping people to help yourself, like protect yourself from their energy or ground out afterwards? Or is that just stuff that you didn't phase you?
No, there's absolutely maintenance when you are connecting with all these people and energies, especially when you're sensitive as me. It's basically like you're a sponge. And if you don't continuously just do your maintenance, you're just going to be so heavy and you won't be like, basically you're going to have that brain fog. You're going to be restless, anxious. Like you're just not going to feel that calm, centered, collected self where you're present and feeling like a person of who you are. So for me, when I'm doing my maintenance, I call it spiritual hygiene. And basically what that looks like is I'm going to cleanse my aura and my personal space. I'm going to set protection upon my aura, so aura shielding, and then set protection upon my personal space. I'm going to focus on my personal nourishment, my needs, so my vessel can be strong. And then I'm going to raise the vibration of my space. So that way these outside factors, things, and people is not potentially influencing me, draining me, or siphon draining me. It's influencing me. So that's what I think of when I'm doing this work, because if I don't make the intention to detach after I'm talking to people or connecting with my clients or going to Walmart and stuff, I'm going to carry all that energy with me when I'm laying in the bed trying to be a mom or just trying to rest, and I'm going to feel their emotions or think their thoughts and all this stuff as if it's my own, because I'm carrying it as it's my own, because my energy is just so open and clear, because I'm just a clear open channel, an anchor. So I have to make sure that as I'm just walking about day to day, that I'm just not constantly absorbing these things. And I have to be aware of, this is mine, this is not mine. Okay, what is this? I have to know all of that. And if I don't recognize it or take a day off or whatever, then it will build and build and build up, and it will act as resistance or blockage, typically.
Do you use any tools or anything that's external, like crystals or anything like that, to help you block out that kind of like the energy? Because I feel like for me personally, I am definitely empathic, but I'm not very good at just blocking it out. So I'm not sure, if I should use something or if I just need to concentrate more with meditation, or what you would recommend for something like that.
So the way I always say it is, there's more than one way to do something. I will never say this is the only way, because that ain't right. So the way I'm going to say it is, you can use like items, like objects, tools. They can be of help, but it is definitely also about intention. So no matter which way you go at it, no matter which way you believe, there's a way to go about it. So like for some people, they like to wear hats. They want to cover their crown to veil. They might want to wear a hat. Maybe they want to braid their hair. They'll say a prayer of intention as they're braiding their hair down so that they're sealing it with like knot magic or hair binding as a way to seal that. Some people like to anoint with essential oils, with that, that essence, that protection. Some people like to actually wear that headscarf or hijab, like the traditional old way. That's the old world way, but it still works. Some people like to wear color as intention. Like if you wear a lot of black, especially if you're empathic, I know people will argue saying it's for protection, but when you are so hypersensitive, I truly believe it will more so act as you absorbing it. So if you're trying to use color to protect, I feel that blue is best. You can wear white to reflect unwanted energies, especially if you're in crowded spaces. I love doing that. You can also wear protection crystals or symbols. Like, I know I like amethyst, labradorite, black tourmaline, tiger's eye, things like that. This is on the top of my mind. Some people also like to wear the cross or the ankh or the pentagram. But the thing is, it has to have that protection association to you. So like if you're an atheist and you're not really resonating with the whole God cross thing, but you're wearing it hoping it will do something that's not really going to work for you because you don't associate it with that. So, it's different things you can do. Some people also like to go the next, while of like asking their spirit team to shield them. That can definitely be of use, but you also have to give, like offerings and stuff like that so that they have the energy to do those things for you, and also delegating that or asking that so they can do for you, because they can't just intervene for like no good reason. And then some people also like to visualize, whether that's, okay, I'm in a reflective ball of light, so anything that hits this ball, it's going to go right back to where it came from. Or maybe, I'm in a purple pyramid, so that way every time I'm walking through this room, I'm just transmuting all this negative energy, turning it into my fuel in some way. So there's more than one way to shield and to protect yourself, but it's about, am I going to wear it? Is it going to like just be a perimeter in my space so I have that barrier around me? But it's really about intention, because a lot of people, if you're just not being intentional, you're more so just being open to being influenced and things just sticking on you and influencing you and draining you all the time. Really, you're just on autopilot, and then things are happening to you because you're just not being intentional with, this will come in and this will stay out. So then you're just letting anything happen, really.
What are some examples of ways that you raise your vibration?
Yeah, so there's different ways, but it's just about fueling light in you. That's the best way I could say it. So whether that's, I'm going to eat more produce, because plants and like that they just eat light. So like you're eating light. So that produce, that fruits and vegetables, some people like to drink, of course their alkaline water, but coconut water is also really great. Aloe vera juice. Juices in general, but it has to be like the actual juice itself, not that, pre-made red 40 stuff. Another thing is also about like, sunbathing in the light, allowing yourself to absorb that sunlight into your vessel, into your aura. Grounding as well, like actually connecting with the earth, whether that's barefoot in the grass or sitting under a tree. Some people like to use sound as a way to penetrate their aura and like kind of, meet that vibration so that they can radiate that. So there's different ways to go about it, but it's just about adding light. And if you are heavy in your body, then it's about moving that heaviness, that stagnancy out of the body to be lighter. So that's like the easiest way I could say that, because there's different ways you can go about that, whether that's sweating that out, or some people like to do the crystal elixirs thing, but it's really just about fueling light in you, really, in every way possible, making space for it. Yeah.
In your journey, it sounds like your gifts have just ebbed and flowed and grown with you as you embrace them. But have you ever experienced any kind of like spiritual or metaphysical block along the way?
There was a certain point when I was like 11 where I was really getting deep into astral travel and spirits, because at that time I was realizing, oh my gosh, every night I go to sleep, I'm leaving my body, and then this happens, and it was cool, but at the same time I didn't realize that, basically I realized that every time I left my body, something was waiting for my empty vessel to just jump in it, because I did not understand the concept of creating sacred space. Let's cleanse the space and set protection on the space and your body so that, like I didn't know about none of that. I just knew, oh, I could leave my body. I didn't know anything about protecting it. So I just did that. And then I realized, after going through that traumatic experience of, oh, every time I'm leaving my body, something's waiting for me. And then I have to jump back in my body so I can gain back control and push that thing out of me. And then I'm like scared to go back to sleep, like that would happen every night for 4 years straight. And during that time, I was literally thinking, should I just block this out? Should I just tune this out? Like, I was just thinking maybe I should just walk away from this because I felt like I was being hunted by like these darker energies and stuff. But at the time I didn't realize it was because they were trying to deter me from ever jumping on that path, from really embracing it so they could stop me before I was doing what I was, my impact. But I didn't notice that. I was just scared to death. I was scared to death so bad. And that was the block for me, was the fear. But then I realized, oh, this is how you could protect yourself. You can actually, you don't got to consent to that, push to that. Like, there's different ways where you don't even have to meet them on their level because you're literally above that. Like, I did not know the concept of that until it was really deep in it. So it was just scary for me. And I had to push past the fear on how to really, depend on my team. What can I do for myself? But it was a journey to get there for sure.
So your dreams, that's something that we've talked about a lot on the podcast, just connecting with different things in your dreams, whether it be, leaving your body or just having just connecting with maybe your spirit guides or whatever. And I guess for me, that's been like the strongest way I've been able to connect with spirit. And I guess my question is, I mean, I've been keeping a dream journal and all of that, but like, what is the next step? Like, what can I do to either progress it?
I literally just heard it as you were saying it, so I'm going to say it as I heard it. The reason why your spirit team is resorting for you to wait until you're physically sleeping is because your mind's not racing. You're not on autopilot. Like, you're physically, so like you're more susceptible and open to pick it up on that. And the truth is, from everything you're telling me, I also feel very strong to say this, is that your physical body is just basically too heavy and your energy is just too heavy. Like, it's basically like you're like spirit's trying to push through a brick so that it can get to you. And then you're like, why is it taking so long? What the hell? And they're like, well, you got a fucking brick. Like, you want me to, like, you need to remove that shit so I can give it to you. Like, that's what it is. So the thing is, if you can reconnect with your body and be present and like in the present moment, like it's basically like you have to release and clear. That's the best thing because you don't have the space. It's literally like you have all this baggage and spirit can't penetrate through it to get to you. So they have to resort for you to be physically down to actually get to you. And that's all it is. So that's your releasing and your aura cleansing. So that way you have the open, clear space for them to connect with you or give to you, for you to receive. That's the best way I could say that. But there's different forms of release and different ways to cleanse your energy. So there's different ways you can go about it. But that's where I would start if I were you.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you can't. It's the fact that you have to make sure you're in a place where they can go there with you and you can go there with them. That's like, so just think about like it's preparation. That's the best way I could say it.
It's like I'm connecting too much with the 3D world and it's blocking me from outside of that. Is that kind of what it is?
It's basically like you're so used to the day-to-day routines and the little, mental gymnastics in your mind that you're just not really in the moment of now. It's like you already think about what already happened or what's about to happen in the future, that you're not really in the present. And then you have all this stuff that you either suppressed or internalized or held space for others and shoved in the back of the box, where it's like, okay, all of that is taking up space where you like, so therefore you don't have the space to actually receive something new because it's like all this old baggage. So you have to release from your physical body and your energy and clear your mind so that you actually are able to receive that stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, we kind of jumped into that or hinted at that, I think, a few episodes ago when we talked about how, a lot of people talk about when they can do it awake, when they can astral project, they can connect into their gifts. They're in this meditative kind of flowing state. And for some of us, because we are so blocked up and hyper focused on things during the day, when we're asleep is really the only time like our mind just relaxes and everything flows. And something that just kind of hit me, BJ, when you were talking about being too focused on the 3D world is perhaps maybe we're not focused on the 3D world enough. We're not focused on the touch of things, the feel of things, taking that breath that makes us present. Because when you're taking a breath and you're focusing on your breath, you're focusing on the very active present moment. And so maybe this whole time we're like, oh, we got to get out of the 3D. And maybe part of our problem is we are not really in the 3D because we're stuck in here. I don't know.
Exactly. No, you're hovering. Or exactly. It's like you're in your mind, but you're not in your body. And then you wonder why you can't receive it. Because it's like, think about like you're half in, half out, and then spirit's waiting for you to be fully here, just fully anchored, present, centered, so that they could just give to you. But you're not fully here. You're anticipating what's yet to happen, or thinking about what already did, or you're just stuck like in the limbo motions of like the routine you are in. So you're not really ready and open to receive that. Not that you can't go there, not that you're not capable. You just have to prepare yourself so that way it can like easily go through you. Like a clear, open, clear channel, but you can't force it, because then you're just like, it's more resistance. It's more like you have to get into flow. You have to be centered, grounded, get into flow so that you can easily just receive that. Like water.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, working multiple jobs and dealing with multiple people all the time and all of the things in life, I think is kind of been the issue for me, right? Just taking a moment, just being able to just sit and, let it all go, right? Just let it all go, not have any kind of worries or anything about what's coming up and all that kind of thing. I think
Learn
is
how to
that kind of what you're
feel,
saying?
learn how to feel and be. That's something you have to master in order to really be in that.
Because I think my biggest problem is that I have been connecting with my spirit guides, I think, in my dreams, particularly one where it was recently where a bald eagle shows up and just went head to head with me and just like we were just rubbing heads together. It was the craziest thing because in the dream it was like an alarming thing because I'm like, oh my god, this is a giant bald eagle. Like, I'm like, is it gonna bite me? But then it was more not being afraid, but more of just overwhelming with the power of what it was.
It's just crazy you say bald eagle. Because when you say bald eagle, the first thing that comes to my mind is needing that bird's eye view for a higher perspective, getting out of your small, narrow minded perspective, seeing the bigger picture and allowing yourself to flow above that to see the all and make your judgments and moves upon that bigger view instead of that short term, small, narrow, limited mindset view. So that's like spirit's way of saying you have a limited mindset that's keeping you stagnant in some way, some thought, belief, or perspective that's keeping you on that level that you are ready to break through from. But that means it has to come to your awareness of what is that? Does this not resonate with me? Is this something that was like programmed and conditioned in me? I just accepted as truth and I just kind of forgot it back there. Like there's so many factors to this, but it's more so of your mind is ready to expand consciousness. You're ready to awaken. You're ready to come to deeper realizations. Like there's different words for this epiphany, but it's about you expanding your mind. And that's what spirit is working with you. If you're seeing that, especially with the nudging like you like that, like that's like, hey, hard headed, I'm right here. Open up. You can just let it. So that's why my eyes go open wide. I'm like, oh my God, you don't even know. But like, yeah.
I mean, it's exciting for sure. It's something that I want to happen. It's not something that I'm fighting at all. Like, especially doing this podcast, meeting awesome people like yourself. It's so that's why I get excited when we get to talk to people like yourself. It's just so eye-opening and so reflective. There's just so many things, so many questions that come up, so many things that we want to know more about for, the listeners as well, because I'm sure that, this is just a small, you crack the door open in the hour that we're together, and then, they have to look through it and try to find the rest of whatever it is that they're seeking. And I think that's what's so exciting about this. And I'm here for it. Like and I'm trying to get tips along the way, but obviously not just for me, but for the listeners, right? Just what they can do to help themselves get out of their own way to raise their awareness of the world, of the world around them that they never see.
I love that you compared, being that line as the flowing water, because I like the idea of, this metaphor that it's got to flow like water. And I think oftentimes we want to feel a gift, or we have a specific gift in mind that we think we need to be having, that it's like trying to hold water, right? Like there's a running river and we're just trying to capture it with our hands, and it isn't going to work. So you just have to let the river flow through you and around you. And I love that water comparison.
Yeah, when I think of intuition, I think of the element of water with sensitivity and ebb and flow and all of that. So,
as your gifts have expanded and enhanced, have you found that paranormal activity has also enhanced around you?
I've noticed as I go deeper into my gifts, which I have not found that they have stopped, even till now, they're still expanding. And I'm like, well, I guess I just have to accept this. But I've noticed as I go deeper and deeper that I'm just able to pick up on more, or find the awareness in more things. Like, oh, okay, it's like, oh, a new one character locked, or, oh, I learned this new thing that's always been around, but I just was never like in tune of it. Like, for example, now when I go into crowded spaces, it's as clear as day. I can pick out, oh, this one's very angry. This one's horny. Like, it's like, I don't have to like dig as deep no more. It's just there, like in my face, like all up there. I'm like, okay. So I have to like actually put things up. So that's just not all up in me, like intertwined and all that stuff. So I have to like make sure that, because it's so strong in my face now, that I'm doing my maintenance. And then also I see a lot of spirits, like they're like I see spirits more easily now. Like it's not like something I have to like try, I guess, And then I guess the newest development is now I can hear from crystals and trees. Like I can actually look at it or touch them, or sit under a tree, and I can actually hear them as if they're like a person, like talking to me, and what they're feeling and thinking. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's one thing to know that they're alive in some way, but to actually hear that, you're like, oh my gosh, like you actually feel like that's crazy. So that's probably the newest, development. And I'm still like practicing some things with it. So it's fun, but yeah, there ain't no stopping. Once you keep going, you keep going. I guess as long as you're open to it.
No, what kind of messages are you receiving from crystals and trees?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I'll hold crystals and I'll hear like I don't have to hear anything like from the person that owns them. I'll just hold the crystal and be like, this one needs to be charged. This one actually wants to help you with your money stuff. And like I will actually hear like what their wants, or I'm always alone. I actually want to be with the other courts and stuff, or I actually want to be by myself. I don't like being mixed in with all these. So I'll actually hear like what their preferences, I guess, is. And then with the trees, it's completely different. Like trees have such a very ancient, well, I mean, they're all ancient energy, but it's just, I feel like the tree energy is so much different than the crystal energy, because it's like the trees, they're intertwined with each other. Like they're actually like a network. And it's like, I'm learning old information that humans have lost from working with trees, apparently, because apparently trees are actually here to help us heal and transmute energies from being human. So that's information that was lost to us, that used to be mainstream and everything. So when I connect with trees, it's usually stuff like do you want me to take that from you? Do you want me to like carry that for you? Like get it off of you? And I'm like, yes. Or you want to blend auras together? Like stuff like that. And, so it's a little bit different between the needs or preferences, like, like from what I hear from them. But sometimes it's like I'll hear it, and other times I will feel the emotion or desire of what they are projecting out. So that's what I've experienced from that.
So when someone tells us to like hug a tree, that could literally help.
It literally grounds you. So I think that's the scientific way I can argue that, is that it will ground you, and that will reduce your inflammation or blood pressure and all that. But energetically, it will allow you to clear your energy and just to be present. And for empaths, that's a way for us to basically give that heaviness to Mother Earth so that she can transmute that for us into our fuel, into our stability or vitality, so we can replenish our energy. So I always tell empaths to ground daily, but if you can, or if you're very sensitive like me, do it in the morning and at night. So start your day like that, and then end your day like that, so you can actually, have the sustainable energy to keep going. Because us empaths, we're just sponges, is the way I say that.
I find it interesting that I am more grounded during specific seasons. So for me, I find when the world is like covered with snow, everybody else is like, it's too cold. I feel like that's when I'm my calmest, like my most grounded, my most, in line. And I've been curious about that. Like, what is it? Is it just because there's extra water all over the place? I don't know, but it's interesting. And it really is not just winter, but it's specifically when there's snow everywhere. I feel like this sense of serenity that, I don't know, it's interesting.
Well, as a witch, I believe, like, I follow, I guess, the patterns of like what's happening like astrologically, but also like the seasons and also the moon cycles. I feel that as a sensitive, those influence the energies of the collectives, and I'm just so sensitive to pick it up on that. I just like to be in the knowing of what's happening. So I'm like, okay, is this me? Is it something like I'm being influenced by? Like, it just helps. But when it comes to that, I just feel like when it comes to winter and that timing of it all, that's also when we're deep into our subconscious. Like, it's also like where, like, it's just, how do I say this? Winter is also when I'm feeling my most happiest and peak, but that's also where we have a lot of spirit energy around us too. So you could be feeling the calm presence of that as well. So there's just so many factors when it comes to winter, but winter's either very activating or triggering, is the way I'm going to say that, because people either love it or they're deep in their darkness in the winter because of that energy of winter.
Could it be also the white color? Talking about auras and all of that as well. Just a blank slate of white, right? It helps you clear your mind a little bit more, and also if it gets reflected off of from the sun to the snow to you, right? Like that could be part of it as well, right?
I definitely feel that to be, plus just snow is gentle cleansing energy. So that could also just be, influencing as well. That's what I think of as the witch side as well. So I believe that to be true to some extent, because like we all feel it. It's just, we're just not all aware of like all those details, is what I feel like.
I also feel, for me, I'm weird, I get overstimulated really easily by sound. And during the winter, especially when snow blankets everything, it almost mutes down sound a bit. So I do feel the world is a little bit quieter. It's a little more softer. It's calm for me.
I can't relate. It's always, I like the way I say it is, for me, living my life, it's almost like I will see and hear like the physical stuff, but then I will also hear, it's almost like I will hear the other song. Like, it's like I'll see and hear what's happening in this realm, but then I'll also hear the chimes of what's happening with spirit. And then also, depending on what I'm interacting with, I can also pick up on the emotions or thoughts of the people I'm interacting with, or the energies in those spaces. So it's like I'm always hearing multiple layers of sound and emotion. So I definitely get overstimulated, or what I call overwhelmed, because I just need either my quiet time or to deplug is what I call it, or else because at all times I'm always hearing something. It's never quiet for me ever, ever. Except if I'm like actually trying to like I can clear my mind, but just day to day, even right now, I'm hearing a bunch of things. Even right now, seeing a bunch of things all around y'all. It's never just
I would
this.
lose my mind. Like seeing
You
fine, feeling
could.
fine. I draw the line on if I heard a bunch of things, I'd lose my mind.
From the second you open your eyes, from the second you open your eyes, and you open your eyes, or before you open your eyes, now I can just, I know I'm awake, my eyes are still closed, and I'll hear from spirit, like the little chimes of the day, and I'm like, okay. And then I open my eyes and go for the day, so, yeah.
So you're in Virginia, right? Is that where
Yes.
you're based out of? So, just speaking to that with the different overwhelming things, do you, whenever you're helping people remotely, right? Maybe they're from Colorado, like we are, or wherever else. Is there? I don't know why I thought about this question, but I was just like, oh, maybe. Do you ever feel like a specific vibe from the place that these people are calling from? Like, I don't know if it's if it can be as general as like Colorado is this, Florida is this, or is it a specific thing like just like their home or wherever they're at?
No, absolutely. Like, absolutely. Like, I have clients that are international from like Japan and the UK and India and stuff like this. So, like, I have international, but also out of state and also local. So, I've noticed whether it's like on phone call or on Zoom, or maybe I am going to their actual home or it's at my office, um, depending on where they come from or where we're at together, or even if it is on the phone, I can still feel the energy from those spaces or where they've been, because a lot of people just carry that stuff if they're not intentionally clearing it off them anyway. So I'll pick up on it for sure, like as clear as day. And I've noticed, especially like if I'm doing like little road trips on myself or whatever, like I will feel the different air, like the different energies from these different places, even if it is just one state over or whatever. Cause like they really like, the land and all these places, like they do hold certain energies, like, congested there. And then me as a sensitive, I can feel, that feels a little bit different or off from this. So that's from over there, I can point it out.
Yeah, that's interesting. We've talked about my house and how things kind of ebb and flow. It feels like energy heightens and then we have a lot of activity and then it dips and then it feels neutral, like there's nothing there. And so my daughter was actually wanting to say, maybe our house is a portal. It would be interesting to have someone who can connect to the vibrations of the earth and the sounds of nature and the messaging from external sources other than just ghosts or spirits, to see a bigger picture, a fuller picture.
Yeah, I definitely have to do that sometimes, where it's like called a space reading. It's one of the services I offer, and it's basically like where a client requests me to come out to their location, and then I'll read the space, where it's either like the property or the building or the home or the office itself, and I'll just go room by room, go around, inside, outside, all that, and I'll give them the full lowdown of like, okay, this is what came up, and this is what I recommend for you to move forward, for what makes sense for you, and whether I do it or you do it, this is what I feel needs to be done. So I'll tell them right then and there what I feel is, possible for them. And then sometimes they're like, I just need you to do it. And I'm like, okay, sure. Here, this is what it looks like. But, like I have those instances too, because sometimes it's the house, or it's the room, or maybe it's the people that's living there that's putting that stuff out there, or maybe it's the actual land itself. So there's so many variables I see when it comes to stuff like that.
Do you think that, just speaking specifically to portals, I don't know if it's just me, but it just seems like it's a very negative connotation. There's not much positivity that comes from portals. Is that wrong to think that way, or are some portals like good?
I just see portal as like a door. And depending on where that door goes to and what your intention is, that really determines if it's bad or not. Because Like, like for example, a lot of people don't know that your basic mirror can act as a portal. If you don't lock your mirror intentionally or cover it, it's going to act as like either an amplifier or as a potential door for energies or entities to come in and out of, because it's a potential portal, whether it's a window, a mirror, even a TV screen. I've seen sometimes. Act as portals. And when I recommend people to like cleanse their spaces and set protection, all this, that's one of the first thing I say is, okay, let's cleanse these thresholds and lock any potential portals, including the mirrors. That's a big part of it.
And that's why my mirror is blocked.
With the clients that you've worked with, have you encountered anybody that does have negative entities attached to them or connections that are draining them?
So I've seen a few different instances. Like I've seen some people where they'll have like a spirit on the property, like the land, not the house, but the land, where in Virginia there's a lot of like Native American spirits I've noticed, or at least recently from what I've encountered. And sometimes they're just so protective over that land that they're not going to choose to cross over. So it's like, okay, I respect you, like so. Sometimes it's almost like, okay, how can we make this work? Because they're not going to move, but we need to make it work for you. So like we have to make a respectful way for them both to coexist, but also appease them. Sometimes it's like, okay, I see this. Well, there was one instance where there was an actual negative attachment to a person. And I actually at the time had to collaborate with another Reiki master. And we basically took a mirror and we took the spirit and trapped it in the mirror. And then we took the mirror outside and broke it and then buried it. And then we did Reiki on the actual person. And then we sealed all the portals in the house. It was a long night. I'm not going to lie. That was like one of the most intense things for sure, because we both also were channeling Reiki while holding hands and closing the portal. So it was like, it felt like a movie almost, but I think that is probably like what I can recall when it comes to like actual entity or energies, like attachments with like the work I've done.
When you do Reiki on people, I saw on your website that, in your FAQs, it does say you have to give permission, not you, but the person going in, the client has to get permission for you to be able to work them and their energy and do readings. So I love that consent is a thing there, where it's like, hey, even though you're walking in, still know that you still have to provide that consent. Because so often I feel like I'll be out and someone's like, well, I read your energy and I'm like, hold on. You didn't ask to connect to my energy. So I love that that's a thing on your website. Now, when you're working with people's energy, whether it be Reiki or readings, do you have to do some kind of like connection cutting afterwards, or not cutting, but just like to remove those connections that were maybe temporarily established?
No, I have to do that after every phone call, after every client. Like I have to do that with everything I do. I call it detaching. So it's basically like a prayer / gesture, because energy goes where attention goes. So you use a gesture and speak in your intention to move that energy off of you. And what I say is, I cut, sever, and disconnect all ties, energies, and attachments from so-and-so. I send these energies, ties, and attachments to either Mother Earth or Source to be transmuted into my unexpected miracles, financial abundance, like creativity, whatever. Like I just choose what I kind of want for the moment or need for the moment. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to take this heaviness or this free energy that I got from wherever, good or bad or whatever. I'm going to change it intentionally so it's free energy that can go towards something else that I'm trying to build up for myself. Because energy can't be created or destroyed, but you can change its form. So if you know someone's like talking smack about you or giving you the evil eye or whatever, and it's a constant stream, why are you just going to block that out? That's a steady stream of free energy. I'm just going to let this hater make my money for me, and I'm just going to live my best life. So that's what I've learned. It's like, some things you could block out or return back to sender or just transmute it. But energy is energy. So just use it, use what works best for you.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Oftentimes we hear about blocking things or cutting things. And I love this idea of taking it and transmuting it and make it work in your favor, especially with the haters, right? Because we get the haters. And so it's just like, you know what? I accept that and I transmute that. And we are now going to turn that into something beautiful. So that's awesome.
I love my haters. I literally post for my haters and I'm like, I love y'all so much because they just give me my money. So keep it coming, please.
Keep on hating. I love that. Like, that's just fantastic. Guys, do you have anything?
Oh man, so many questions, right? I don't know. We talk a lot about paranormal activity on this podcast, right? So when you're talking to these people, and you said one night it took you a really long time to have to close the portals and all of these things. Now, have you dealt with a lot of different? Is it always just spirits? Are there like, do you believe in the idea of demons, or is it all just negative spirits that just need to go away? Or could you speak to that a little bit?
This is a beautiful question. So I have seen different types of spirits and entities. When I first got into this, I'm not going to lie, I first interacted with demons because I was deep into the trauma. I was heavy and they were trying to deter me and I didn't notice such, but they were heavy trying to get me off of this path. So they were attacking me like crazy. So demons was the first thing I ever knew, honestly. Then it was my spirit guides as I started tuning in more to them. Like, okay, when I listen to them, good things happen. And when I don't, bad things happen. So it was demons, then spirit guides. Then it was my higher self. And then I realized there are ancestors, soul family, elementals. Like there's so many different type of spirits, but they're not like, I always say it depends on what vibration you're on. When you are sensitive, it's almost like we vibrate differently. So we literally glow differently to spirit. So like when we set up that call or speak out our intention, it's like they will hear us immediately. Cause like we just got we don't have to try that hard. So it's like when we finally connect with them, depending on how you react to that energy, we'll let you know, okay, is this good or bad? Or should I go deeper into this? Because like, I always say for empath, there's 3 clicks in your body. There's one in your brain, one in your heart, one in your gut. So it's like I feel good about it mentally. My heart glows and I have a good gut feeling. So if it's like click, 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 then it's a good thing, or you could trust it or go deeper into it. But if it feels like or heavy, then it's like either a no or there's something more to it. Like, so depending on when you connect with that energy, if you feel that anxious, anxiety, you're breathing, like if you're like all that, like, then I would not connect with that. I would not trust that. But if you feel lighthearted, you feel excited, you feel calm, you like, then go deeper, trust it, connect with that energy, that spirit. Because a lot of people, they're so scared of what they're connecting with that they just block it all out altogether. But I always say when you're connecting with spirit, you always want to call out specifically what you're connecting, like their name. But if you don't know your spirit team names, I feel like you should say it like this, like, and word it the best way that feels right to you. I would say something like, in this moment, I call upon my ancestors, my spirit guides, my soul family that is aligned with me, that serves my highest good. And then whatever that is, whether that's a question, delegating them to do something, reveal the snakes in my life, whatever that be. But a lot of people, they're just so scared to make that an invitation or just to reach out that they just block it all out together. So if you call it out and you don't have that anxiety or that heaviness or like that weird like tension, feeling, then I wouldn't be scared of it. And then when you listen to it, do you feel good? Do good things happen? Like pay attention to that. But a big part of it is, how do you feel or react in your body and your energy when you're tuning into that? And then you'll really know how to go from there.
I feel like when I'm all the way aligned and connected, I feel yummy. I don't know if that's a word you can use for that, but for me, it feels yummy.
For me, I just feel charged. That's the way I say it. I just feel so electrified, you know.
Yeah, I'm curious, John and BJ, when you feel aligned, what word do you feel if you had to put a word to it?
I don't know if I ever feel aligned, to be honest with you, but I know that every time I ask my spirit guides for like a sign or something, I immediately go, "Oh no, that wasn't a sign. That wasn't a sign enough." So I kind of like play it off. I don't know. It's weird.
I think for me, it's not like a word. It's more music. It's I hear music in my head. I hear a song. I hear something that's just like boom. This is that positive like song that you love, and it I don't know why it's this song, but it's this song today, and then you play it, and then you just kind of live in it. At least that's how it is for me sometimes.
I love that because you are a very musically inclined person. So, you play music when you're on paranormal investigations. That's the thing you ask guests about a lot is their connection to music. So I love that that's how you also identify being aligned.
I love that music reference because if you're not aware, I I've noticed that when I go deeper and deeper into people's energies, all our souls or our consciousness, whatever you want to call it, our spirit, it literally has like a song. Some people call it your soul song, and then some spirits or some energies, like especially when you go into higher realms, they don't even have like names, like how us humans call it, because that's like a human thing apparently. Like when you call on them, it literally sounds like you're singing a song, or they're like their tune, and then you call to them, and then they come. So I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because some, especially when you go deeper into the channeling, some spirits, their names are legit. Like, it's not like words. It's like a pitch or a tone or like a melody, however you want to call that, because it's just a frequency.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I love that. The big thing for me is I've been dabbling with the different frequencies of music and how you different pitches, different key signatures. Does that mean different things to different spirits? Does that draw them
It
in more? Does
does.
it?
It does. It absolutely does.
That's what we're starting to find as we talk to guests. The more we ask that question is, it seems like different beings resonate with different vibrations and frequencies and songs. So that's really neat.
It absolutely does. And this is what I'm going to say. The lower vibrational entities that will gravitate towards those lower vibrationals, those are going to be the ones that typically feed off of humans. The ones that are sometimes called malicious, however you want to word it. It's just they feed off of those lower vibrations to literally feed. So that could be like fear, guilt, shame, anger, lies, illusions, ego attachment. So those are the things that they gravitate towards when they're feeding off those lower vibrational energies. Those are just the emotional impacts of that. That's not even like the habit or the action. So there's levels to it. But when you play the higher frequencies, that's going to draw in more like light beings. So angels, elementals, different things like that. Sometimes even animal spirit guides. So that's what I've noticed in my findings. So if you want to connect with more like the higher realm stuff, play the higher frequencies. But if you're trying to develop your third eye or your channeling, you can listen to 852 hertz for your third eye, and you can listen to 963 hertz for your crown. So the crown 963 is good for your channeling and meditation, prayer, connecting with spirit. But if you want to develop like your third eye and your intuition, your abilities like that, that's going to be 852 hertz.
Saved.
Eh.
Get into those binaural beats. All right. So, Natasha, this has been a really phenomenal episode, and the time has flown by so quickly. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us. I feel like we could just keep going and going and going on these conversations. Now, for people that are listening that want to reach out to you, are you open to people contacting you, and where's the best way for them to?
Absolutely. You all can reach me on my website. Y'all can book with me through my website if y'all are interested in my services. I also have a free blog on there for just informative spiritual content. But if you actually want to contact me, to reach out to me and have a conversation, The best way would be email, Natasha at psychicmediumnatasha.com. That's my email. If you do reach out by my phone number listed on my website, text is the best because sometimes I might be on call with a client during that moment or preparing for a session. So either text or email is best, but y'all can also book through my website. So that's the way I'm going to say that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, do we have any final thoughts before we wrap this amazing episode up?
I just want to say thank you for joining us and just giving the insight that I really needed. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of our listeners would tune in and they would, get some information out of it as well. But for me personally, I think it kind of confirmed and answered some questions for me. I know it's not like I didn't pay for a session, but like I appreciate that you were able to help out a little bit while we talked about a little bit of everything. So.
Yeah. And BJ, I just want to let you know, I can tell that you're very interconnected with angels because of where your abilities lie, with you being an intuitive empath, being very clairvoyant, being very clairaudient. Like, I clearly see angel wings behind you. So you haven't even activated your wings in your astral form yet. So the thing is, you have to learn how to go through your ego death before you can really embrace your full nature to do the things you want to do. But there's so many like, it's like you have to let go and shed this character before you can really do that. Not that you are a character, but just it's like this version of you needs to rest in peace so that you can start a new chapter. I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I could say it, but that's what I feel for you. With you, Ashley, I really feel like you're about to deep dive into like your throat chakra stuff. Like, I feel like you're meant to be sharing some type of message. I don't know if you're going to be writing something, but there's some project you're meant to be starting that you're sitting on. I don't know what it is, if you're about to get into it, but I just feel the need to say it. So whether it's now or for later, I'm just mentioning it to you. And for you, John, I just feel really called to say that I just feel that your vessel just needs some nourishment only because I keep hearing this chitter chatter. I feel like, I don't know if it's brain fog or just people in your ear, but I also feel heavy in your body. So I just recommend doing your best to attend to that because I just don't feel like you feel like your best self right now. So I just recommend just trying to tune into what those needs are because I just feel like if you don't check on this, you might potentially get sick around the corner, like within the next 3 months, if you're just not careful. So that's just some love to y'all. Thank you for giving me the time. I enjoyed my time with y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was, whew, that gave me chills. All right. All right, John, do you want to bring us home?
I do. Thank you again, Natasha, for coming on. Again, great episode, and I'm sure whoever needs to hear will reach them, and it'll be great. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm BJ Segura.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Miss Natasha here.
And also, don't forget to check out 300podcast.com, where you'll find all of our past and current season episodes, as well as guest information and all kinds of awesome merch.
Until next time, Metapals.